Hey YouTube, you're going to talk about things that are going on in the world around us. And I am on a trip, going to a wedding tomorrow. So as you can probably tell from my beach attire, I am somewhere near the coast. And I've taken a break from looking at the news today, just because this morning I was at work, and then I've just been on the road, not trying to focus on what's going on in the world. Because it's really been a lot. So and it's exhausting. It's quite exhausting trying to keep up with it all. Um, and it's not good for mental health to be really weighed down by everything that's been going on in the world. It's good to kind of escape every now and then. So, I want to take this moment to kind of do my review of Black Widow, which I saw recently. I saw it a couple days ago, and I've really just been ingesting. And I just want to kind of put this up front. Black Widow. Here's how I'll go about it. How this ties into, well, first, what I thought of the movie critically and subjectively, and then how this ties into the MCU and everything. So there will be some level of spoilers. And then following up, I will give it my ranking as to like how I would grade it. So first and foremost, subjectively, how I felt. I personally did not like it as much as I thought I would, and already had kind of lower expectations for it. And I think specifically why it suffers so much is it doesn't have the universe surrounding it, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is the first movie of the next phase of the MCU, which is now what are we on? Phase 4. It really, in my opinion, seems to go really far to try to be its own thing. Out of the gate, there's this really long intro that is dark. There's a lot of footage of human trafficking, not real, fake footage of human trafficking, and like fake political stuff. And the movie kind of bends over backwards to try and be something it's not, which is like a serious picture. Kind of like an espionage movie, kind of like Mission Impossible. And one thing, into the objective territory, one thing that really makes the movie suffer is they really tried to do a lot of cinematography like Bourne Identity, which is really jerky footage, quick cuts on the fights, and that makes it really hard to watch, in my opinion. To remain in the objective territory, one thing that is one of the best Marvel Cinematic Universes, which is very similar to this movie in some ways, is Winter Soldier. One reason why Winter Soldier is so good is it doesn't only have great action choreography, which this movie also has, but it also has great cinematography to complement it. The camera takes 3 steps back as to where you can see the entire action. Because this movie tries to be kind of like Bourne Identity with its cinematography, the action choreography really suffers. And just to transition a little bit back into subjective territory, this movie, in its attempt to try and maintain its own identity separate from the MCU, it also kind of tries to have kind of somewhat of a, I think, in my opinion, again, this is completely subjective, a statement about sexism by having a villain with that point of view. And it really made the movie suffer because I think it hollowed out the villain. The villain was, in my opinion, the worst villain in the MCU. Back into the objective territory. A movie is only as good as its villain. A movie is only as good as its characters, specifically the protagonist and antagonist. And villain-wise, it was one of the worst villains ever in the MCU. And heroes-wise, the protagonists, their motivations were very, very, very unclear. Entering spoiler territory. Black Widow's mom, or her adopted mother from the beginning of the movie, in 1 second had been going her entire life serving this organization, and in the next, like, oh yeah, let's just take him down, as if she had never considered it before, when she is surrounded by an army of widows who seem to want to escape, when she might have the ability to topple the whole thing herself. And that brings me right to Black Widow's motivation. She had the Avengers on her side, and she knew about this organization that could topple the world, and as the villain stated in the world, in the movie, actively works to manipulate organizations. And she has Nick Fury at her side, the guy who is the ultimate spy, who wasn't aware of that organization, continued to manipulate governments all around the world. And then in the big light up screen that was right in front of her on the, still spoiler territory, on the crashing satellite, it shows like thousands of women, if you count, like thousands of women who were so were trapped by this organization. So yeah, a lot of damage was done by the organization, and at not one point as an Avenger would Black Widow ever had considered even investigating it further or trying to take it down. Further hard motivation to kind of figure out is we don't know where the antidote came from. We don't know like why all of a sudden her sister is the only one carrying the antidotes when she was just trying to take down a group of people with the antidote. We don't know how it ended up with Black Widow. So yeah, clunky, very clunky movie. There were some scenes worth the price of admission. I enjoyed, even if it were for the weird cinematography, I enjoyed the fight scenes with Taskmaster. And if you've seen the movie, the prison escape scene from the Gulag was incredible, and I would say that was worth the price of admission. Also, the fourth act with jumping out of the satellite, even if there were some visual effects that looked terrible, like 90s action movie bad, the free-falling scene was really entertaining. And now into the future of the MCU, how it ties in. Post-credit scene, Julie Marie-Dreyfus shows up again to task Black Widow's sister with taking down Hawkeye, and that of course will be directly tied to Hawkeye's Disney Plus show, which premieres in November, which will include Hawkeye and his daughter, who will be like a future Archer. To talk a little bit about also how this ties to the MCU, this whole thing occurred between Civil War and when the Black Widow movie occurred. Between Civil War and when Steve rescues the other heroes from the raft, which is very jarring because when you watch Civil War, it seems like that happens like back to back, but apparently not. And then the post-credit scene happens after Falcon and Winter Soldier happen, or around the same time Falcon and Winter Soldier happen. Very long gap between the movie and the post-credit scene. By far the longest time gap between a movie and a post-credit scene in the MCU. Yeah. So how I would rate it. If I'm going to compare it to the rest of the MCU movies, I put it like bottom 5. Maybe slightly better than likes of Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 2, maybe even Captain Marvel. But this movie lacks a lot of the MCU charm that the other ones have, and that really makes it suffer. Yeah. So, if you do go watch it, a little inebriation might be required for full enjoyment, and you might be a little lost because everything's a little convoluted. But anyways, that's it for me. I will catch you guys on the next one.